Hello, everybody. Hang on a minute. Hang on. I just realised I left my little heater on. Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Craig. This is F1 Grandstand, and this is your Friday night daily Formula One news. Yes, we've got a lot to get into tonight. Max is in hot water with the FIA. They feel they need to intervene because of his comments about the 2026 regulations and cars. We've also got those comments, and other drivers have waded in on that debate. Also, of course, we're going to do a roundup of the Bahrain Test Day 3. Mercedes have found a very unlikely ally. What does this mean regarding Mercedes' dilemma and predicament regarding their power unit? Could be good news for Mercedes, to be honest. Also, Mercedes have got a brilliant new upgrade coming to Bahrain next week, and Leclerc gives his verdict on the SF26. So if you're an F1 fan, of course, you're in the right place. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do smash a like on the video as well. Makes a big difference to the success of the channel. And if you do subscribe, make sure you have the bell all icon ticked so you can control which pieces of content that you want to engage with. It's been a great day today. We did a live stream watch along for the final hour of the third day at the Bahrain Test. It was good fun, actually. Loads of people on that stream. It was really good. And tonight, Simon says, Tony looked flustered. It's because I had my heater on. I had my heater on, and I realised, Simon, it was making a lot of noise, and you don't want that getting picked up on the microphone. Yes, so I'm going to say hello to the chat. Who have we got in tonight? Yeah, we've got Sulo, we've got Drop Tune, Gemma, Queen of the Chat, Grey Bush is in there. God, loads of people in there. So the chat's been popping off. Mario's in there. Simon's in there. Giuseppe's in there. Old Guy's in there. Everyone's in there tonight. Good. Dawley's in there, Chef's in there, Crackite's in there, all the regulars. And if you are brand new to watching the channel, do jump in the chat, say hello. We've got the best community on the internet for Formula One. So come and say hello. Everyone's dead friendly. And tell me where you are watching from. So yes, Max Verstappen. You know, I've got to respect his honesty. But what's been going on? So yesterday, Max opened a big can of worms because he's the first driver this year who really, I feel, has spoken without a filter. He's just said exactly what he thinks. Now, we'll start with that. Let's start with the comments that he said yesterday to the BBC. Because, you know, always good to start at the beginning, and we'll see how he's ended up where he's ended up today. So this is where it starts. So he starts off with his comments to the BBC. He's obviously getting asked about how he feels about the new regulations, the new cars. And this is what he said. Verstappen, whose team have built their own engine for the first time this season, said, the right word is management. But on the other hand, I also know how much work has been going on in the background, also from the engine side for the guys. So it's not always the nicest thing to say. Well, don't let that stop you, Max. But I also want to be realistic. As a driver, the feeling is not very Formula One-like. It feels a bit more like Formula E on steroids. As a pure driver, I enjoy driving flat out. And at the moment, you cannot drive like that. There's a lot going on. A lot of what you do as a driver in terms of inputs has a massive effect on the energy side of things. For me, that's just not Formula One. Maybe it's better to drive Formula E, right? Because that's all about energy efficiency and management. That's what they stand for. Driving-wise, it's not fun. Verstappen also said his concern was that the new cars were moving away from what would traditionally be expected of an F1 driver. He added, all the good drivers will be able to adapt to it. That's not the problem. But it's just the whole way of racing is changing. And I would say less pure. I just want normal driving, just how it should be, without having to think, oh, if I brake a bit longer or less or more, or one gear up or down, you know, stuff like that, that it so heavily impacts on the performance on the straights. So that was the comments from the BBC. And actually, they missed a load of other stuff out, because we need to get in to, it's not just what he said to the BBC, it's what he said about the 26 simulator and linking onto that. And this is coming out from motorsport.com. He said, the feeling in real life is the same as in the simulator. Sometimes certain things feel a bit better or worse in the simulator, but this time it was actually the same. And I have to say, at Red Bull, they sorted that out very quickly, having the simulator on point. So I knew very soon that I didn't really need to spend too much time in it. And he did say this. Last year at one point, I deliberately said I didn't want to drive in the simulator anymore. It felt so bad compared to last year. So I thought, you know what? I'll just focus on the 25 car in the sim and we'll see about the rest this year. It's just not good. Pointed out that he also disliked last year's ground effect cars at times. Verstappen replied, yeah, but that was still 10 times better than this. To begin with, you are very inefficient on the straights in terms of energy. On this track, it's not too bad. But we're also going to circuits where it will be real drama. And then there's the entire feeling in the car in terms of grip and how you have to drive it. It's just not fun. Yes, it's more like that. And that just makes no sense at all, right? In certain corners and at certain circuits, you're better off going through a corner a bit slower to recover more energy for the straight. Sorry, but that belongs in Formula E. And then he says, try to calm me down a bit. He says, look, we're still racing in Formula One, and that's great. But once you've already won and achieved everything, then it's not really necessary to stay around anymore. There are lots of other nice things you can do. And I'm definitely going to do those, maybe already this year and also in the coming years. So this certainly doesn't help to keep going for a very long time, which might not be good news for Formula One fans, Verstappen said. But he also said, then I'll race somewhere else, right? We can have a nice barbecue there and maybe set up a party tent next to the track. And it does show you that Verstappen's focus is increasingly more on endurance and his GT3 team. And he said, especially if the car isn't nice to drive, then I'm busy with other things. Working hard to get the GT3 car in a good place. I was actually working on that this morning as well. I think maybe, and then he was asked this. He said, he's not overly concerned whether his future lies in F1 or elsewhere, but that may not be the case for the FIA or Formula One management. And he said, I think maybe they didn't realise how bad it would be. But we'll see. Like I said, this track isn't too bad. But when you go to Melbourne, that's where you'll really see how much you're having to lift on a straight. And his final comment was, yes, of course, there will be a few people who aren't happy with my comments today. But in the end, it doesn't really matter to me. I didn't make the rules, so they shouldn't be angry with me for something I didn't create. Wow. So that's how we got here today. Max being Max, talking honestly, saying that he doesn't like the way he has to drive these cars. And look, and here's the interesting takeaway. Max seems to be getting to grips with these cars and these regulations quicker than anybody. If you look how consistent his laps were through Bahrain Test, brilliantly consistent. He was managing to get a higher top speed at the end of the straight. His battery recovery was better than anybody. So yeah, like he said, good drivers will be able to adapt to this driving style, but that's not the point. It's not the point of being able to drive these cars and find a way to win in them. It's the fact that he's saying it's not pure racing and he doesn't like it. He thinks Formula One should be balls to the wall, flat to the floor down the straight, and you shouldn't be lifting and coasting. And I have to agree with him, right? And some of the other drivers are scared to agree with him because the FIA are the FIA and they don't want to feel the wrath of the governing body. And speaking of that, this is what brings us, this is where we end up next. And just by the way, this quote, I'm just going to put it on screen because I think that's his last quote and I think it's very important that you see it for yourselves. They shouldn't be angry with me for something I didn't create. Now, this is what brings us on to this. F1 officials intervene after Max Verstappen's scathing critique of 2026 regulations. And this story came out today. So, Red Bull have been contacted by F1 leadership after Max Verstappen outburst. They're calling it an outburst. I don't think it's an outburst. I think it's Max Verstappen being asked questions and Max Verstappen being Max, answering them as honestly as he can for the fans. So Verstappen's Thursday interviews caused a stir at Formula One management, according to Sport Bild. An F1 press officer contacted Red Bull and immediately sought a meeting with Verstappen. The four-time world champion was aware that some may be upset over his remarks, and it's fair to say no one was thrilled. The BBC has spoken to senior figures in the sport who say that drivers shouldn't jump to conclusions so early in the new era. And as reported by Auto Motor und Sport, team officials have asked the drivers to wait a few races before giving their verdict. Verstappen seems to have already made his mind up though. I mean, yeah. And honestly, here's what I think about that. If F1 or the FIA or a press officer has requested to speak to Max, guess what I think Max would have said? No freaking way. What do you want to speak to me for? I bet he hasn't even taken the meeting, is what I think. Oh, I'm going to get your super chats. Get your super chats in, by the way. Gemma, finally, a driver keeping it real and not PRing. Exactly, Gemma. Thank you very much for your super chat. Oh, another one. This should be the pinnacle of motorsport. Exactly right. It should be the pinnacle of motorsport. And what Max is saying is, I can drive these cars. I'm a good driver. I can do what I need to do to make these cars work. He still, as it looks right now, the Red Bull looks exceptionally good along with the Ferrari. So he's in with a chance of winning the World Driver Championship this year. You can never count Max out, right? And he will change his driver style. He'll adapt. And if anyone can do it, Max can do it. Other drivers will do the same thing. But what he's saying is, the essence of Formula One is being lost in this grey middle area because you've got Formula E, and Formula E is a formula on its own. It's fully electric. The cars are lightning quick, but battery management is a major part of that formula. And that's great. But Formula One isn't that. It shouldn't be a part of Formula One. Now, I agree with him. Why move Formula One into this grey middle ground of motorsport where it doesn't want to be? And here's the reason why. Do you know why this is what it looks like? It's like this for one reason. And it's because Audi, to be attracted and all of these works teams to come into the sport, it's a prerequisite for them that they are seen as being green and hybrid. Otherwise, they can't see why they should be in Formula One, which I think is a crazy mentality. George Russell talks about it, and I'm going to come to him in just a moment. But the way Formula One is now, to attract major manufacturers, this hybrid electrification element almost needs to be there. But it shouldn't be like that. And Max is absolutely right. And I love the fact that Max has this attitude now. He's 1 foot 4 world championships. It's enough titles for him. He's going to go and win at Le Mans. He's going to win the 24 hours at Nürburgring. He's going to win with his GT3 team. Max Verstappen's 28 years old. Wherever he goes next, Max is probably going to win, right? He's that good. And he just wants to race. And one of the comments he said was, well, at least if I'm racing with my GT3, I don't have this problem. I can race flat out. It's pure racing. And that's what Formula One should be. Now, the interesting thing in this is some of the drivers have waded into the debate. And you're not going to believe. You will believe, because George Russell, I know George and Max have got a long-standing feud. And George Russell is the president of the Drivers Association. And obviously, who else other than George Russell? School prefect himself. And George Russell missed the party line. What he comes out and says is that Russell feels the new 2026 Formula One regulations deserve more than 2 days of testing to be judged after explosive criticism from Max Verstappen. Well, this is a chance for George to give a dig in the ribs to Max, not that Max cares. But Russell feels it's too early to judge the new rule set because teams are set for a steep development curve, and he enjoyed the fact cars are lighter, smaller and more nimble this year. All the drivers have said that part is good. Smaller cars, slightly lighter, feel a bit more nimble. Every driver has used that party line as a positive. They've all said that. But this is what Russell says. I do think it's a step forward, and I always like to give things a chance. We're 4 days into a set of regulations that's going to be over 3 years long, and the progress everyone's going to make in these early months is going to be massive. The cars are way nicer to drive. I've only ever driven the smaller generation of F1 cars twice, and I couldn't believe the difference of how much more agile the car feels being lighter and smaller. So that's very positive. The engines are complicated, to be honest. It's probably causing more of a pain for all of the engineers than it is for the drivers. However, these two tracks, Barcelona and Bahrain, are arguably two of the easiest circuits for the engine. So I don't want to say anything too early before we get to the likes of Melbourne or Jeddah, because it'll be much more challenging for the engines and energy recovery once we get there. The one challenge that we've faced is using very low gears in the corners, he explained. Here in Bahrain, usually the first corner is a third gear corner. Now we're having to use first gear to keep the engine revs very high to keep the turbo spinning. Sometimes it feels like a bit of a handbrake when you're having to go down the gears. Well, yes, George, that sounds pretty shit to me. This is probably the one thing that's quite annoying and isn't that intuitive. But for the rest, you can't argue with the amount of power you have when you get the full 350 kilowatts. But I also think it's going to progress a huge amount in the coming months. So we've got to give it time. So what Russell's done there is he's kind of said, oh, Max, you can't be saying stuff like that. You know, it's too early to say. But you've really made Max's point. When you've got cars having to drop down for the first time ever, turn one, Bahrain, into first gear when they're usually going doing that corner in third gear to try and keep the revs up, to try and generate some charge in the battery. We've already seen that all the teams have said the same thing. Ferrari said today, the fact that Hamilton and Leclerc are having to aggressively get down into first gear on certain corners, that movement, the gearbox can't handle it. They are going to have to recalibrate the gearbox to make that work. Now they realise they are going to have to be dropping down to such low gears to keep the revs high enough, to keep the turbo spooling and to recharge the battery. Like, that's not racing, is it? As we know it in Formula One. And so Russell also goes on to say, as with anything in life, you can't tick every single box, he added. And this is a bit where I agree with Russell. And he's been open here, and I don't think it should be like this, but this is what he says. And there's more at stake. When these regulations came into play, there was obviously a huge push on EVs from the EU. And that was a big part for the likes of Audi to come in. So that's got to be a consideration. Well, hang on. So now we're talking about to sell road cars because the European Union are pushing electric vehicles, which I think we can all agree we all hate and don't really need. And if you're saying it's green, I think there's an argument on the other side of that to say EVs aren't that green, but European Union is saying, hey, EVs are the thing. If you want to sell Porsche, your GT3, you've got to sell a certain amount of electric cars. We've got to stop all this crap, because us car fans and Formula One fans means that we get punished. Because now, to attract these manufacturers into Formula One, there has to be an electrical element. That's not right. We don't need that. Because I don't think Cadillac give a shit about that. Cadillac, I'm sure, will give us the V8s, right? All the Americans, give us the V8s, give us the V10s. We're from a nation that we don't give a shit about your electric cars, unless you live in California and you buy a Tesla. But everyone else is like, we don't give a shit. That's why Cadillac can come in with the, you know, when hopefully we go back to a V8s and V10s. You know, it's annoying. And I think nobody can argue, this is what Russell says, and I think nobody can argue that Formula One is an amazing place currently. Of course, we want the best cars, the fastest cars, the best racing, but I don't know how you please everybody. Well, Russell, you speak like a politician. Stop it. You're one of the top 3/4 drivers on the grid. You know you don't like driving these cars. You don't. Lando Norris. Listen to what Lando Norris had to say. Again, taking the opportunity to, you know, really stick it to Max. He said, Norris said, I really enjoyed driving the car. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. Formula One changes all the time. Sometimes it's a bit better to drive. Sometimes not as good to drive. But we get paid a stupid amount of money to drive. So we can't really complain at the end of the day. It's a challenge. But it's a good, fun challenge for the engineers and the drivers. It's different. You have to drive it in a different way and understand things differently and manage things differently. But I still get to drive cars and travel the world and have a lot of fun. So no, nothing to complain about. Well, of course, but that's not what Max was saying. Max wasn't talking about his £70 million a year. He was purely talking about the essence of the sport of Formula One. He wasn't saying that, you know, he can't drive the car, he can't make it work, he can't win championships. He's really sort of saying that for the fans and for the drivers to sort of, for pure racing and for the fans to enjoy pure racing, I think Max was talking, honestly, on behalf of the fans. Whereas Lando is sort of talking on behalf of himself. I get paid a lot of money, I've just got to do my job, I've got to toe the party line. But come on, that doesn't mean the sport isn't worse for having the electrification. And I think having big voices saying these things openly and honestly, if they truly believe it, is a good thing, because the FIA and everyone in Formula One has to listen and maybe have to consider, I don't think it'll happen, but maybe we'll get a full U-turn and the electrification can piss off. Do you know what I mean? And maybe Max should spearhead that. Thanks for you. Yeah, get your super chats in, guys. Gemma, I saw that one. He's behaving like an FIA puppet. You're talking about George, aren't you? Absolutely. Yes, Gemma, George Russell. But he's like that, isn't he? Isn't he? You know, I think George is a great driver, but he is literally, it's literally like having a politician in there. Oh, so many in the chat. Hey Jim, hey Incongruent, Dawley's in there, Eduardo's in there, loads of people in the chat. Get your super chats in so I can read them, because it's the chat is popping off. I'm going to try and grab a couple that are flicking through. Andrew says there's an old saying, if it ain't broke don't fix it, but the FIA been trying to fix F1 for years and they've been screwing it up more with every reg change. I mean, these cars are going to be quick down the straight. We know they're going to be slower through the corner, and we know that this experience of running out of battery and lift and coast, like we saw Ferrari have to do it last year and no one liked it. So I think that there's a situation where I can see the cars improving, and that I think is there shouldn't battery. If you remove battery management, if you have a battery element that doesn't sort of require battery management, well then yeah, okay. It's the management part where you can't just see drivers going balls to the wall at all times, and I think that is what the issue is. So yes, Thane, we haven't seen these cars race. Max was saying Las Vegas was going to be bad for racing. That track has been the best race of the year, and it was also the best event of the year. Gisette says, listen to the world champion driver. Exactly, listen to Max. Flatlander, love it, but Max is right. Yeah, Flatlander, you're right. I think Max is right. I think we need to support Max in this. And I think, but I honestly, going back to the original, what was on the thumbnail, look, I think the FIA do want to intervene and have said they tried to get a meeting with him. I bet Max has just gone, no. What could... I've got nothing else to say about the matter. You know, I'm telling the truth. So Flatlander says, what fuels are the teams using? I think this testing week, they've been using the sustainable fuels this year. So the biofuels / synthetic fuels. Billy, welcome to chat, buddy. Max is clever, psyching out the other teams with his complaint of cars. Every driver is struggling with the new cars, except Max. Absolutely true. And complaining along with Max, he controls the new car to victory. I mean, Max is good. I'm not going to lie. Max has got very good meta game, hasn't he? He knows how to stir the pot. He knows when to rile things up. But the one thing about Max is he always delivers. He's like the postman, isn't he? He always delivers. And that's what I think with Max. He's just, there's just no getting away from it. He always delivers. Now, speaking of Bahrain, that's my little rant about Max. Right, we need to get into roundup of Bahrain. Yeah, incongruent. I can see you in the chat. Be glad for King George. V8s and V10s would be so much cheaper for manufacturers too, Wayland says. Absolutely. Reese, what's up, Grandstand family? Hit the like and share button. Thank you, Tony, for all the great info. Thank you, Reese. Absolutely. If you are watching for the first time, join the community, subscribe to the channel, get in the chat, say hello, tell us where you're watching from. Best community on the internet, not just YouTube. Mario, and these batteries are not green when you look at how much lithium and water they need for production. Exactly. God, the green argument just does not work for me with the whole EV stuff. Anthony says, did Lewis run out of petrol today? I'll tell you what I do know. The rumour is he might have run out of petrol, but what I actually think happened was he got some... He's driving the car and he got warning flashing lights on the dash and he pulled the car over. He didn't necessarily get an out of fuel warning. It was it just basically for safety he pulled the car over. I think from that the latest news is that it was they'd run out of fuel. I think that's what it is. Reese says, yeah, he ran out on purpose to cut everyone else's session short. Could you imagine if he did that? Oh, the games. Yes, incongruent. I'm praising Britons. Thomas a tank engine. That was Thomas a tank engine. Yeah, he was a Scouser. Yes, DT, I see you in there, buddy. Did he call the AA? Anthony says. Well, he definitely needed recovery. But I need to get into the Bahrain roundup. Right, so let me get into that. So, Bahrain today. What the hell's been going on? Well, it's also the whole week, really. A quick roundup of the week. So today, Antonelli was fastest of all. Oh, excuse me, hang on. That's better. Mercedes 1-2, final day of this week's 2026 Bahrain preseason test. It's good news for Mercedes. They finally showed some true pace comparatively. We've seen pace from the Ferrari, we've seen pace from the Red Bull. Today was Mercedes' turn. They got out there, showed some pace, and here are your lap timings for today. Kimi Antonelli at the top with a 1:33.6. Then we had George Russell, 2.5 tenths behind Kimi. Lewis, respectable times again. That Ferrari looking very good. Lewis managed 150 laps today. That's the equivalent of doing almost 3 Bahrain Grand Prix. Bahrain's what, 54 laps? So he nearly did 3 Grand Prix race distances today, Lewis, until that, until his car came to a stop within the last 10 minutes. Oscar Piastri, 4th. He was 8 tenths off the pace. Max Verstappen, 5th. Isaac Hadjar, 6th. Ocon, 7th. By the way, Esteban Ocon is the one driver who came out in support of Max Verstappen's comments about the cars. He said, yeah, what Max is saying is true. They are less fun to drive. But, you know, so Ocon did actually come out in support of what Max Verstappen was saying. Franco Colapinto finding a little bit of pace in the Alpine today. He managed to do 144 laps as well, which is good news. Colapinto didn't crash for 144 laps. Come on, chat. Come on, chat. That's good for Colapinto. Good work. Seeing some big improvements there from Franco. Who else? Ollie Behrman did 70 laps in the Haas. Nico Hulkenberg managed 58. Albon did 78 laps in the Williams. Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls, he managed to clock up 119 laps. Good news for him. Sainz did 68 laps in the Williams. Perez got 67 laps in the Caddy. Bortoletto in the Audi got 60 laps. Lance Stroll. Right. Lance Stroll. He got 72 laps done in the Aston Martin, okay? He wasn't the slowest of all today. Bottas was. But if you were watching the show last night, where it was all about Stroll letting rip on the AMR 26, he said, engine, power unit, we need to find performance. Chassis, need to find performance. The entire car package needs to find performance. We are not sandbagging. We are 4.5 seconds off the pace. It's what he said yesterday. And I'd like to show you that Lance Stroll was absolutely right. He was 4.49 seconds off the pace today. So there you go. Lance Stroll getting it right. Yeah, no, it's not great news for Lance Stroll, to be honest. And also this week, the comments he's been saying about the AMR 26 in Newey's car. I did ask Newey, I said, can you see Lawrence being, being nice to Lance after his comments?
No, I can't.
No, I can't. That's what he said. I said, can you see Lance winning a Grand Prix for Aston Martin this year?
No, I can't.
Not very nice, Adrian. But that's Adrian getting you back, Lance, for all of the nasty shit you said about the AMR 26 yesterday. Because, Lance, he went all Hulk. He went all Hulk. And then I said to James Voles, I said, are you anxious about making Lance Stroll angry?
Strangely, no, I'm not anxious.
Well, I think you should be. Look at him. You don't want to make him angry because he might end up coming to your garage and smashing up those Williams eyes. Thing about Bahrain. Have you seen those Williams eyes? I can't believe I've not mentioned it all week. Yeah, I managed to get Lance Stroll into the show again. But how good are those Williams eyes, by the way? Oh, brilliant. I thought that was so good. Yes, well, anyway, I'm just going to pick up some of the chat. Yeah, so have I missed any? I've not missed any super chats, have I? No, good. Okay, so yes. Where? I've just dropped all the chat. Auxilla said, I'm worried about the Ferrari. I've seen onboards where both Charles and Lewis were counter-steering 3 times out of the last corner. They have openly said, Auxilla, about the Ferrari, that they've got great turn in, but the rear end's a little twitchy. And they haven't got the balance quite right. But I think that's a setup thing with the suspension. I think they think they'll get that dialed in because they wanted more. They wanted more of an aggressive front end on that Ferrari, and they've got it. But now they need to, they need to dial that in. Auxilla, I think that's what it is. And Wayland says Charles said he doesn't like driving the car too. Well, Charles Leclerc, he's been quite. Ferrari have a problem when it comes to. Talking anything negatively about the cars, the regulations. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, when they were in the sim last year, both said, we hate these cars, these 26 cars. We don't like it. Charles Leclerc has spoken in a slightly kind of way about the SF26. And actually, I've got some comments from him later on in the show. But yeah, I think the truth is, none of the drivers like it. Hamilton said you need a degree to understand and drive these cars. But you know what it's like at Team Ferrari? You can't turn around and go, these cars are worse than last year. We hate the new regulations. Lift and coast is a load of shit. I don't want to be lifting it before, 3/4 down the straight. It doesn't feel right. It's counterintuitive to what a driver wants to do. But Hamilton, I think, has learned a little bit of restraint. He's going to a new season. He's getting he's getting a better driver feedback loop with the team. They're giving him some things he's asking for. Ferrari looks pretty good. So I think Leclerc and Hamilton are not truly able to speak freely. That's what I feel at Ferrari. I feel it's harder. It's a harder position for them. But do I feel secretly that they feel similar to Max? Yeah, damn right I do. They're racers. Ollie Behrman, to be fair, he showed some balls, actually. Ollie Behrman said it last week in Barcelona. He pretty much said the same thing. He didn't like the cars. He didn't like the 26 regulations. And Behrman did say that, actually. And this is a rookie, to all intents and purposes, or a sophomore. But yes, he's, so Ollie Behrman said the same thing. I think most of the drivers would prefer not having to drive these cars the way you need to drive them for them, which is the fastest way around the track. But yeah, Charles Leclerc, I don't think he likes him at all. Drop tune, so funny. Willie's got a sense of humour. Yeah, I mean, those eyes are brilliant. How long will it be till everyone's got them on the back of the driver's screens? So Tutti Frutti, I can see you in the chat. Welcome to the community. Same to you, J28. Welcome to the community, guys. We call Lance Wreck-It Ralph, and he even looks like him. Yeah. Simon Davis says Elkin is watching. Elkin is watching. He's got his spies everywhere. Knew he should take a shoey. Yeah, Josie says Lance isn't a leader. The whole team is busting their butts to get it right and don't need the owner's son bashing them. Look, that's the one thing I do agree with you on that, Joseph. I think Aston Martin are all working their asses off. I think Adrian Newey has demanded a lot from them. 4 months behind the curve. But do I believe that Aston Martin will get it right in the shortest possible time? I do. The ingredients are there. Newey, Honda, Alonso, Cowell. I mean, I'm not even discounting Cowell. Cowell knows what he's doing with power units. Cardiel knows what he's doing with chassis. Newey knows what he's doing with aero. Like, Aston Martin will come good. They may be a few races behind, but I think they'll catch up. And I think they'll pass a lot of the teams on the grid. Newey's got form for this. The first car he brings to the first race of a new regulation doesn't always win, but it's the platform that he builds from. It doesn't mean he's got his philosophy wrong. It doesn't mean he's got the platform wrong. It just means he needs more time to sculpt that clay a little bit more. But he's using the right clay. Right? That's what I believe. He's got the right ingredients in there. And Honda, you got to remember, the Honda thing's interesting because Honda decided they were leaving Formula One. Aston Martin then convinced them to come back to Formula One. But by that point, Honda's actual Formula One engine development team have all disappeared into different parts of the Honda empire. Different departments. So then Honda go, oh shit, we're now doing this deal with Aston Martin. They have to build a whole new team. Of course, they will have had some managers or whatever, some leaders coming back into that project. But the majority of the Honda engine team are new engineers to that project. And you've got to take that on board. Auxilla, thank you so much for your super chat, guys. Keep your super chats coming. Auxilla, feels like battery management simulator instead of the drivers pushing to the limit. If the pit wall has to manage the deployment strategy, bad news for Ferrari. We are checking. Love that. Yeah, absolutely, Auxilla, because it's the battery management, as much as it's controlled by the driver at the moment, I think this is where the race engineer conversation comes in, because you are reliant on your race engineer's information in your ear as to when you can push, when you can't push, when you're lifting coasting, can you afford to defend? Like, the information now that it is literally your wingman is now almost in every single fight with you. They're almost making decisions for you about whether you can use boost or overtake, or even lift and coast. So those decisions coming from the pit wall, you're absolutely right, Auxilla, because if you've not got a competent race engineer, like Hamilton hasn't even really got a race engineer, he's got a temporary one, you're going to be in the shit, aren't you? You know, your pit wall gets it wrong. And we know Ferrari last year, that wasn't their strongest point. The pit wall activities, sending the cars out at the wrong time with the tyres going cold, so they couldn't get optimum hot laps in qualifying. So many bad decisions, truthfully. So yeah, it's interesting. But when I come to what Charles Leclerc's been saying about Ferrari, I think you'll see what I see. And I think Ferrari are getting on top of their processes, which is good news. Yeah, Flatlander, took Honda 3 years last time. Let's hope it's different this time. I mean, Honda, yeah, I mean, it can't be that long, can it? It's... I think Honda are ahead on the battery tech as well. Honda seems to be ahead with the solid state battery. Oh, Peter Arnold says, yeah, Drive to Survive next year will be amazing. Bring it on. I love Drive to Survive. It's so good. Incongruent, a fever dream, not F1 legacy. What we're talking about? Initial R. F1 10 pages he was last year. Are you talking about Ferrari here? What was Ferrari's strongest points? Are you talking about... So Drop Tune says, what was Ferrari's strongest points? In Bahrain, Ferrari's strongest points, I would say, what we've learned from the Ferrari SF26 is their engine. Their engine looks good, solid, reliable, bulletproof. I think their front end is better. Their suspension is better than what they had last year. They're able to turn in quicker into the corners, which is good. Their rear end at the moment is looking a little loose. So that is something they need to work out. But Ferrari, for me, I think aero looks good. The speed's good. The drivers seem to like it. Yeah, I mean, if I had to say the best point about what I saw on Red Bull was power unit and definitely their battery management, deployment and regeneration. Red Bull were streaks ahead of everybody with regards to their battery management and battery powered regeneration. And how do we know that? It's because Max Verstappen was the only guy able to hit 340 kilometers an hour on the straight consistently every lap. With having enough battery power to do that, no one else was doing that. No one else was doing that. So that just shows how far ahead Red Bull are. Plus, their powertrains is looking pretty darn effective as well. Yeah, ditch electric. I'm with you, Incongruent, on that. Ditch electric. Jim Clark. I wish I could look at F1 as a fan and have the enthusiasm for the circus you show. Yeah, I mean, I think Jim, if you work in F1, it's a bit different. You know, you know what it is, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes on. And as a fan, we have it's not the same skin in the game, is it? Like for us, for the fan, it's like any sport. It's the drama. It's the reason why we love sport. It's the thrill, the entertainment, the stories, you know, the racing, the edge of your seat excitement. Now, if you're working in F1, I'm sure you get some of that, but you also get the responsibility, the pressure of having to actually deliver a car, Jim, and maybe you don't quite get to enjoy it the same way. I think that's true. Sulu says the engine is genuinely a tank, solid reliability. Yeah, that Ferrari engine is freaking awesome. Absolutely awesome. Gemma's super chat. Thank you very much, Gemma. 4.5 seconds behind and 4 months behind in development. I see what you're saying there, Gemma. Yeah. So going back to what Lance Stroll was saying, 4.5 seconds behind off the pace, but 4 months behind in development. Can they find that 4.5 seconds? Listen, yes. Yeah, they can. Because even Mercedes, Ferrari, they're all going to be quicker next week. And they're all going to be quicker in Melbourne. Aston Martin will find the pace. Yes, Gemma. Super chat's flying in. Thank you so much. FIA and Ferrari gag the drivers. It's ludicrous. 100% here for honest feedback. They'll look back on this era as a car crash with battery tech. Maybe, Gemma. Maybe. I mean, FIA and Ferrari definitely do want to gag the drivers. Ferrari do gag the drivers. FIA want to control the narrative. I think the only person that doesn't care enough to allow the FIA to control him is Max Verstappen, and that's why I like him being in the sport. I like the fact he's able to say what he wants, because I think if he left the sport, I think he'd be all right. I really do think he'd be all right. And as fans, that's what we want. Tell us how it is, drivers. Give us the honest feedback. Tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. We're here for it. We're not going to not like you. We want to see some people buy authenticity, don't we? That's what we want. That's what we relate to. We don't want the sort of, the diluted vanilla bullshit. We don't want it. Yes, thank you very much for your super chat, Gemma. Love that. Drop tuned. F1 has always been super political behind the scenes and has loads of interest off track. Of course, brand FIA, brand FOM, brand Liberty Media, of course. Jim Clark says, I remember my turbo blowing up on the Ferrari 2015-ish Chinese Grand Prix, I think it was. Ferrari turbo blowing up. How do you feel about that? Were you supporting? Were you working on the car then, Jim? Were you working on the cars then? And it was your turbo. Was that your responsibility? I bet that was quite harrowing. Everyone's looking at you. Not cool. Mario says, it's for all drivers the same. I think it'll be interesting to look the fights they have and who the drivers are going to be fighting against. Because I keep saying it, the only fight that really matters is the fight with your teammate. And the only person who I don't think is going to be able to fight with his teammate, really, is Isaac Hadjar, which is a shame because Hadjar, I think, is going to be a top driver. But when your teammate's Max, well, I think you just have to accept you're never going to beat him. Jim Clark, oh dear, that was a few mil down the bog. Yeah, is that how much it is for a turbo? I remember Nico Rosberg was talking about that he had a clause in his contract when him and Lewis Hamilton were racing at Mercedes. They said if they crashed the cars, only if they crashed into each other, that the cost of the repairs for those cars the drivers would pay for it. And Nico Rosberg said when him and Lewis Hamilton had a crash, it cost him £350,000. 350,000. Wow. Zkev, have you seen the practice starts? The practice starts were, I didn't like it at all. Yeah, it didn't look good. Yes, Senna from the Bahamas. You're having the best time. Hope the sun is shining for you over there, Senmag Galanes in the Bahamas. You're having a great time. So Jim Clark you made the prototype turbo. Wow. So you've worked in Formula One, Jim. We need to get you on the show. We need to talk engineering. And you can explain some of the stuff that's going on with these engines. You can explain the difference to what Ferrari are doing with the steel cylinder heads, what Mercedes are rumoured to be up to, what Red Bull tried to do and couldn't actually achieve. And if you know anything about these hybrid systems, then yes, Jim, we need to get you on live on the show. Tell him, everybody in the chat. Tell Jim he needs to come on the show. We're going to make you famous, Jim. We're going to make you famous. But yeah, I want to hear about your time at Ferrari. Thank you much for your super chat. Please, people, hate truth. Please, people, hate truth. First rule of show business. Yeah, I know, but I don't want that. Just no. Give me the bitter truth than a beautiful lie any day. Auxilla says last reg was the ground effect era. This time the reg is going to be the lift and coast era. I know, but who the fuck wants that? Oh, still hate the halo. You know what, Drop Tune? When you drive on the simulator, and I've got, we were talking about this, Drop Tune, weren't we, about sim racing, and when you sit in the cockpit, that halo is really annoying. When you're trying to drive in the cockpit, really annoying. But it saves a lot of lives, right? We can't argue with that. It's a safety feature that works. So, yeah. How many successful Dutch in F1? Well, the most successful Dutch driver before Max Verstappen was his dad, Jos Verstappen. So there's two. Filmed by Thomas, the practice start was like children playing Mario Kart. Thank you, filmed by Thomas, it's true. Jim Clark, I arrived from Merck after making theirs in 2012. I arrived at Ferrari just after Alonso left. Then they suddenly started winning because I told them the current turbo was like something out of a Lucky. Well, we need to, engines, Jim. Everyone tell Jim in the chat that he needs to get on this show. I need to understand more about what's going on with the engine development. How's it? Max, the only one that has the balls to say what we as fans are thinking. Totally agree, how's it? Hopefully more drivers speak up. I think they will eventually, hopefully. Yeah, Zkev says time to switch to WEC. I think that's what Max is basically saying. If I will go to another formula and I'll enjoy that just as much. Yeah, it's true. Oh God, I've got more news. I'm totally getting lost in this. So this is a real, I've got loads to get through. Sorry guys. Ferrari, this is a really big story and I've left it till 52. Tonight's going to be a long show, guys. Ferrari rules out protesting the Mercedes engine. How did I forget to... I'm so sorry I've got into this so late. This is big news. Big news. Coming out. So, this is like a lifeline for Mercedes. Ferrari has ruled out going as far as lodging a protest over Formula One's ongoing compression ratio row. The matter is set to be discussed at next week's F1 Commission meeting in Bahrain, where sources expect a final verdict to be laid down by the FIA. If the FIA stands by the Mercedes approach, then its rivals could choose to challenge the matter with a protest in Australia. Now, this is what Fred Vasseur said today. We're not there to make a protest, he said. We are there to have a clear regulation and to have everybody with the same understanding of the regulation. But we don't speak about protest. Vasseur explained that he was not naive enough to believe there would be no grey areas in the rules after such a major regulation change. But what was most important was getting clarity on areas of disputes that everyone was on the same page. With the new regulations on the battery, on the engine, on the chassis, on the tyres, on the sporting regs, we were going into the direction where we would have grey areas, Vasseur said. There were going to be different understandings of the regulations from team to team. And sometimes with the FIA, it's a direct consequence of new regulation. And it was always like this. The most important for me is to get clarity. Everybody can accept that we made mistakes or we didn't have the same understanding before. But what we need to have is clear cut that it's now like this. And I think that's what we can expect from next week. But no protests coming from Ferrari. I'm so sorry I've left it so late. Wow, because this is massive news for Mercedes. because now the supermajority isn't there. And do you know what's really wacky about this? It was Ferrari that originally were raising the complaint against the Mercedes engine trick. And now Fred Vasseur's come out and gone, nah, you know what? Don't worry. We're not going to protest. The FIA are going to make a ruling on it, but we're not going to bring protests in Melbourne. I mean, that's a complete U-turn. How did that happen? I mean, how did that happen? Because guess what? When I spoke to Toto Wolff today and said, has this week been fun for you, Toto? He said,
having a laugh. Generally, we have laughs, and that's good. We've always maintained the laughing, even when it was not so much to laugh about.
Yeah, having a laugh. Toto's having a laugh. But I don't know what has gone on, because I think maybe it makes me think that maybe Ferrari's engine looks so good. Maybe here's a curveball. Maybe Ferrari have suddenly realised our engine's really good. Hang on a minute. Would we pass a compression ratio test at race temperatures? Actually, we might not. And I don't want anyone messing with our current engine setup. So maybe Ferrari have done this complete U-turn. But honestly, Toto Wolff, he falls in shit and then comes out smelling of roses. And no wonder he's
having a laugh. Generally, we have laughs, and that's good. We've always maintained the laughing, even when it was not so much to laugh about.
Always having a laugh. I mean, I can't believe it. So now, not only have the FIA said this week that we've had secret meetings, we've done some secret investigations on the Mercedes engine, it's fully compliant, and now, today, Ferrari have said, we're not going to bring any protests anymore, that threat's gone. We just want the FIA to rule on it, so we're all clear. And their language is also, and we know teams interpret regulations, they can make mistakes, it's all okay. It's like, how is all this shit changed in 48 hours? I mean, it's gone from Toto Wolff looking like his engine's illegal and he's going to have to redevelop a whole new engine for his customer teams. So now everyone's going, oh no, seems all right. Yeah, Flatlander says, what have they found there with their steel cylinder heads? Exactly. Is that steel expanding? Are they getting major compression ratio benefits as well as combustion ratio benefits? Sulu says, what if Ferrari is a compression ratio trick too? They just baited Red Bull and the others into joining them and quitted the development on the trick. I don't know. It's totally wild whatever's going on. And then Kev says, Ferrari have used AI apparently and additive printing to create a cylinder head that can cope with higher peak temps. So I think that's why they are probably using biofuel rather than synthetic. Well, their combustion rate is better than anybody else's. There's more bang in that engine. But yeah, I think that is a wild situation coming out from Ferrari. I'm sorry I left it so late in the show to bring it up. Gemma, another super chat. Thank you so much for all your super chats. You don't realise what a difference it really makes to the channel. Thank you so much, Gemma. Jim on the show, guest engine expert. Yes, that's what we want, Jim. You know we do. You know we want you on the. We know we want you on the. Oh, Jim says the Ferrari head is not steel. It's far more complicated than that. Really? You see, Jim? This is why we need an F1 engineer on the show. Everyone's going to mither you now, Jim. Everyone's going to mither you to get you on the show. We will. We'll try. We'll keep trying. Peter Arnold said Fred's had the heads up from the FIA Ferrari. Got a trick up its sleeve. It sounds like it. It sounds like they don't. There's a reason why they're quite, they're not pushing it very hard anymore. It's kind of wild, isn't it? It's kind of wild. But anyway, it took me a long time to bring that into the show. I should have brought that in way earlier. And what else have we got? Another one. This is also quite important, actually. We've got news from Ted Kravitz from Sky Sports F1. So Ted Kravitz says Mercedes are already planning a major update in time for the second Bahrain Test next week. What is he talking about there? I didn't know this. Mercedes are already running their second chassis. So the original, from the platform they built for the 26 car, they ran their first chassis in Barcelona. They ran another chassis this week. They've got a third chassis already to run in Bahrain next week. So Mercedes already bringing upgrades. How the hell have they got 3 alternative chassis already ready to go? And that's what they're doing next week. Mercedes are bringing a new chassis to Bahrain. Now I'm wondering whether, hear me out here, it's because Mercedes need to have a story for why their car is so much quicker next week, because they've actually unleashed all of the horsepower of that Mercedes power unit, and they want to go, no, we've just got a new chassis. That's why we're just quicker. We're just better on the corners. But yeah, Ted Kravitz says Mercedes got a big upgrade coming to Bahrain next week from the Mercedes brand new chassis. And by the way, Dave, we will be doing watch alongs again next week. Thank you to everyone that tuned in for the watch along today. It was really good fun. So watch alongs again next week for the Bahrain tests, and as usual, we will be doing our daily live news at 7:30 GMT. And I think, oh no, I've got one more. Oh, crikey. And it was a quick one I wanted to drop in because, that one. Charles Leclerc sees major Ferrari progress in Bahrain as we are talking about it. Yes, Reese, I saw that. Ferrari is still on the same power unit from Spain. Flatlander, cost cap too much. Everyone's on you now, Jim. Jim knows the secret. Sulo knows it. Everyone knows, Jim. Everyone knows you've got stories to tell. We want to hear them in this community. That's what we want, Jim. Right, let me tell you what Charles Leclerc has been talking about today. It's only a quick one. He just wanted to round up saying that during an interview with Sky Sports Italia, he basically said, it's in terms of performance, it's impossible to know, but there were 2 or 3 things we could play with to hide our performance. Now there are 15. So it's very difficult to understand where we are compared to the others. But yes, I'm pleased with where we're at. I wouldn't call it safe in the sense that there's been, and there is, I wouldn't call it that we are safe. There is work to be done. It's been incredible in Maranello to push everything and everyone. They're doing it in a very positive way. He also said this, on the way Ferrari organised the 3 days of testing, saying, I'm satisfied with how it went. I'm not talking about performance, but how it went and how we're managing our tests so far. Last year was much more difficult. The tests were much less structured, but this year it is very, very good. So when we talk about Ferrari improving their processes trackside, I think we've got evidence there from Charles Leclerc that Ferrari are improving their processes trackside in the way they've been handling testing, at least. And I think as well, the drivers are feeling like they are in a feedback loop with the engineers in the development of the car. Hamilton said the same thing. So I think everyone's quite happy at Ferrari. And I think it's quite good news for Leclerc, which is nice because, you know, in 25, I did a lot of shows, I think completely justified, which were not that favourable on Ferrari, or Leclerc at times, or Hamilton at times, and definitely not favourable from John Elkann or Fred Vasseur. So I think it's nice that we actually get some positive vibes out for Ferrari, because credit where it's due, they are looking good until they're not, and then we'll talk about it. But that's it. I love honestly, Friday Night Live is my favourite, guys. It is my favourite, I'm not gonna lie. Oh, thanks, Anthony. Another good show. Thank you. Thank you to you. And thank you to Kev, to Gemma and Flatliner and everyone. Peter, Drop Tuned. I can't name you all. There's been so many new people in the chat tonight. Thank you to each and every one of you. You are all very, very welcome in this community. It is the best community on YouTube and on the internet, and you are very, very welcome. I'm so glad you all tuned in tonight. Auxilla, thank you so much for your super chat, buddy. He said maybe they did take some pointers from Lewis. Letters to the team. I am convinced, Auxilla, that they did. I am convinced that, because Hamilton said as much, that he is very happy to see that the influence he's had on developing the car is present in this car, and upgrades and requests are present in this car. And I think now, I mean, look at the steering wheel. That's all Hamilton. This is the change of suspension, I think, from push rod to pull rod was I think a lot of it was to try and solve the problem that Hamilton and Leclerc had with an unpredictable rear end. It still looks a bit unpredictable today, I know, but going to push rod was the right choice. I think Hamilton and Leclerc have both had major input into this 26 car. And I think they're listening to the drivers, and I hope they continue to do so. But yes, I think now it's like Fred Vasseur said, he doesn't want to hear everything's great. I want to know what we can do to make the car better. And he said that just going into the winter break about the 26 season. So I think things might be changing in the way the communication is handled at Ferrari, the way their feedback loop operates. And I think it can only, well, listen, it could only get better, right? So I think it's looking good. I think it's looking good. Thank you so much, Auxilla, for your super chat. Thank you so much for all your super chats tonight. Very much appreciated. Yes, it's been a busy show. Yeah, Simon says Adami's still pissed though. Yeah, he is, but tough shit. So he should be. Get back to the testing previous car program. Jim Clark says, as an active F1 engineer, there's only so much I can say. Bit boring really, but I will say when anyone is barking up the wrong tree, I have a confidentiality clause. All right, Jim, well, the community is here and grateful for anything you can give us in the chat. We will take any tidbits we can get from a genuine Formula One engineer. Thank you so much. Listen, guys, good night. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will be back Sunday Night Live. Oh, no, hang on. Tomorrow, Friday Night Live, yeah? So I thought it was Friday for a minute. What day is it today? It is Friday. Oh, my God. Yes, I will be back Sunday Night Live, 7:30 GMT. Oh, God, it's been a long week. I need to go and get a hot toddy. Right, I'm going to see you on Sunday. Enjoy your Saturday. Enjoy your Valentine's Day. I'll see you Sunday night, 7:30. Ta-ta.